All right, so good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from, everyone. We've got an audience across the continent and beyond today, and welcome to another exciting broadcast with us here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. I know we've got a bunch of new faces in the crowd today, and so welcome to the program. Sorry for the delay. Sometimes tech difficulties happen when you're bringing these broadcasts to fruition, but we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. We do over 40 broadcasts a month with some of the coolest people and places on this planet. Just yesterday, we were live with a whale researcher. We talked about robots in space, and we were live in Kenya with the Owasso Lions veterinarian. So it's been a really exciting month. February in particular is our entire month dedicated solely to incredible women in science and exploration. So if you want to check all the programs out that we've got in the past few weeks and in the weeks to come, check it out on our YouTube channel. Everything we do lives there forever. So there's over 3,000 programs with all those amazing aforementioned people. Now today, I'm really excited, especially for our newbies, to welcome back one of my very favorite groups we partner with as an organization, the Vermont Institute of Natural Sciences. So they are a rescue, rehabilitation, re-release center for injured birds of prey. They are an education hub, getting the chance to showcase some of the most incredible animals on this planet. I don't know about you, I love birds of prey, particularly eagles, owls. We've had the chance to feature some really, really amazing animals with VINS over the last couple of years, and I'm so excited for you to meet some of them today. So we're going to turn it over to educator Caitlin Roberts. She's going to blow our mind with a few bird friends, and then lots of opportunity for questions one by one through all our classes. YouTube friends, you guys are willing to share, able to share too. But without further ado, I'll stop talking. Caitlin, welcome to the broadcast, and take us away.
Hey, Jesse, just before I start, can you remind me how much time before questions are we hoping for?
20 minutes. If you got 20 minutes is great, and then 20 minutes of Q&A. You can be a little longer than that, whatever makes you happy.
That works perfectly for me. Thank you. So my name's Caitlin. I'm an environmental educator here at VINS, or the Vermont Institute of Natural Science. Our mission is to motivate people to care about their environment, and we've been doing it now for 51 years. And so we're pretty proud of that. We keep engaging folks in all sorts of different ways. So I am really excited to kind of being here with you all to introduce to you some of my favorite ambassadors here at VINS. And so here at VINS, we do research, wild bird rehabilitation, and education. And so the two birds that we're going to meet today have actually gone through a rehab department or a rehab department across the country. That means that they were injured in the wild, and somebody was able to find them and bring them to a local bird hospital or our hospital. And unfortunately, the injuries that they got means that they won't be able to ever survive in the wild. So because they can't survive in the wild, they get to live with us, and then you get to meet them up close and personal, hopefully learn a few things about them, and learn ways to help the ones that are still out and about. And so we're going to meet two very special birds, like I said, and they are both raptors. And raptors are pretty charismatic birds. We think about them when we're hiking around, or we're driving around. We see them on the highways. We see them in our backyards. And a lot of the times when we think about raptors, we think about dinosaurs primarily, or also the really big guys. So thinking about those dinosaurs, thinking about the velociraptor. Raptor actually comes from the word to seize. And there are certain birds today that are called raptors because they catch their food using their feet. And I have a photo right beside me here of one of the most iconic raptors in North America, and that is the bald eagle. And a lot of the times, like I'm saying, when you're walking around and you see a big bird, our brain kind of gets really excited thinking about, oh, is that a raptor? But raptors come in all sizes. Yes, the big mighty fisher that is the bald eagle is very impressive, but the little guys do have an important role to play and are sometimes as ferocious if you think about it. And so give me one moment as I bring out our first guest.
Fantastic. While you're doing that too, I'll just pop this up again on the screen. If you want to check out vinsweb.org, you can meet all their animal ambassadors, see all the amazing birds they've got, check out some of their conservation work too. Again, a really, really special organization. And we've done a whole bunch of other programs with them too on our YouTube channel. So if you want to check that out, make sure every student has that. All right, I'm excited. Oh, we got our first friend here. Here we go.
Our first little guy here is our American Kestrel. And so this is a type of falcon, and falcons are built for speed. Again, thinking about the big guys that we might think of, the peregrine falcon can reach speeds of up to 240 miles per hour. That's pretty impressive. At 240 miles per hour, a peregrine falcon, who's about this tall, can take down something as big as a Canada goose. It's really impressive. This little guy, though, he can reach about 60 miles per hour, which, if you think about how much he weighs about a stick of butter, about 100 grams. So 100 grams going as fast as 60 miles per hour, or 100 kilometers per hour, that's going fast. And that is going to be chasing after tasty things. And as a raptor, he only eats meat. And meat in the wild isn't a nice prepared chicken breast or a slab of steak. It is other animals, that live prey, other whole live animals that they find. And for the American kestrel, who's on the lower side, he definitely loves a nice mouse. He also goes for bugs. So a lot of their day is dedicated to chasing dragonflies, cicadas, grasshoppers, but they'll also go for a tasty mouse. And if they see a nice small bird, they'll even go for a small bird. And so as a falcon, what makes him allowed to be able to go that fast is if you see his little wings there, his wings are quite pointy at the end. And they're quite long for his size. They're almost so long that they cross at the back. And then his tail is even longer than his wings. And so the long pointy wings allows him to kind of push himself to really fast speeds. And then the long narrow tail allows him to turn really quickly in the air. And so as he's zipping along chasing tasty things, he might miss. And he might actually see the grasshopper go back into hiding in the grasses. And so the kestrel can also fly in a different way that the peregrine falcon can't, which is to hover in the air, just perfectly still, waiting for that prey item to pop back from the grasses. And so he's going to dive after it and pop back. And so it's pretty impressive to watch these birds. They love to live in open fields, open meadows. And so next time you're in an open field, especially depending on where you're at, Vermont here and Canada is a little bit too cold for these guys at this time of year. But come springtime, they'll be migrating back. But if you're in a place that's a little bit south of here, there's a good chance you're going to see these birds year round. And so keep an eye out for a big field with a small, colorful bird, maybe perched on a power line or hovering in the air, actively hunting. And so as a raptor, like I said, he's chasing down those prey items. He is a carnivore. And as a raptor, he has certain features that allows him to be a really good hunter. So if we think about that, what makes a raptor? Because other birds eat bugs, and they're not raptors. Like think about American robins eat bugs, chickadees eat bugs, even barn swallows or tree swallows are only really eat bugs. And so why are they not birds of prey or raptors? And that's because it's the way that they catch their food. And so going back to the raptor to seize, a barn swallow, American robin, they're going to catch their food with their beak, Whereas the raptors, they use their feet. Let's see if we can get a little focus on that. And so these feet are quite strong, and they're equipped with talons at the end of it. So sharp claws, sharp, long, curved claws. And those sharp talons will allow them to kind of puncture their food, hold on to it, and for them to be able to eat it. But the talons, they help them grip onto their food, but sometimes he might catch something as big as he is. And so when you have a big chunk of food, what do you have to do with it? If you don't have a fork and knife, you got to figure out a way to tear it apart. And so the raptors, let's put them in the white background there. You can see them. You can kind of see the little curve of that beak there. And that curve is the perfect shape for tearing apart food. So imagine he's pinning that food down like the fork, pinning that piece of food down, and then his beak is tearing it apart just like the knife would be slicing that piece of food as well. And so those are his raptor body parts that allows him to catch his food and eat his food. And then the third raptor feature, kind of a way to find his food, is his eyes. And so he's looking at something over there. His two front-facing eyes, good image of the bald eagle to the left of here as well, is those two front-facing eyes. When you look at a raptor, you can see those eyes staring back at you. And other predators have that feature, like the wolf behind me. 2 front-facing eyes. Humans have 2 front-facing eyes. And 2 front-facing eyes gives us the ability to know how far things are from us, so that when we're chasing and leaping and grabbing something, we know how far we need to do that. And that's really useful for humans when we play sports and when we drive a car. But luckily, we don't necessarily rely on that anymore because we have grocery stores these days. But the raptors, they really need those 2 front-facing eyes to know how far that bug is, to be able to catch it in the middle of the air. And so the eyes, the feet, and the talons all work together to make even this little guy be a pretty ferocious predator. Give it a look. Oh, hello. He said hello. And so I'm going to bring him back home because we're going to meet another one that has slightly different adaptations to hunt at a different type of day. So give me one moment while I get him out.
I'm excited. I'm on the edge of my seat here. What are we going to meet next? This is one of our favorite birds we've had the chance to meet. There's a few that have consistently shown up during our broadcasts. Again, all of them are on our YouTube channel, but if you're keen on some of the other species there, do check out their website. Fantastic stuff on social media as well. And a good Instagram page. I'm excited. This is like the only kind of broadcast that we have that has like an edge of your seat, what creature is going to arrive next. Usually it's like prepared in advance with like zoos and aquaria and stuff. I think this is more fun. But we'll welcome in Caitlin back again in a second and see what we've got. Here we go. You're building up the anticipation beautifully. Oh, there we go. It's the owl, my favorite. Yes.
He can be a little bit slow to come out of his crate, but a nice big chunk of food is a good reward. So that piece of food is almost the size of his beak. He can swallow things pretty big, and that's an important adaptation for a lot of these raptors. They do have that curved beak to tear apart food, but they also have the capacity to swallow pretty large items of prey. And that's super useful when there's all these other predators that might want to steal that prey item from you. So gobbling it up is a good way to make sure that nobody steals it from you. So this here is our eastern screech owl. And so you can see that his modelly chest really blends in with his chosen habitat, or his habitat that he evolved for, which is the woods, the forests. But he also doesn't have to be in big forests. He can be found in tiny little woodlots in the middle of suburbia, in cities, and around a lot of people. As long as that wooded area has enough dead trees, smallish dead trees, for him to nest in, and mice and bugs to eat, he's gonna be around. And so it's kind of a fascinating thing to meet this little guy, because can you imagine all the owls you may have missed by just walking around and not looking? And so next time you're in the forest, look for holes in the trees or little V's in the trees, and look carefully for maybe the presence of a hidden owl. Another good way to look is sometimes looking down, because they usually like a specific branch or a specific tree to hide in. And a lot of times when they're hiding, they're digesting their food. And owls, because they eat their food whole and their digestive system can't digest bone, you get to see little pellets from these guys. That's a lot big, but he can make a pellet about the size of his face, which is still pretty impressive. And that owl pellet can be found at the bottoms of the trees that he likes hanging out with. So if you're looking down and you see this kind of round, this little pellet, this little roundish oval thing of fur, you can look up and see if there's an owl nearby. So those are my 2 suggestions to keep an eye out for, to see some owls in our area. So owls, as they hunt at night, which is a different time of day than our American kestrel that hunts during the day, they have the same raptor features, but they've got a couple extra to be able to hunt at night. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And so the first one is those really big eyes. Owls have these beautiful big eyes, and some of them have really dark eyes that kind of gives them a bit of a spooky look. But Miami here has these beautiful green eyes, but they're really big because big eyes are like big windows. Big windows, they let in a lot of light, and so big eyes, they let in a lot of light. So he can navigate his way with just the twinkles of the stars and the moon to guide him. So he doesn't need a lot of light to be able to see at night. And then the other adaptation that he has is another important sense. The kestrel, the type of raptor that we met before, really relies on their eyes to find their food. Miami here, the eastern screech owl, he relies on his eyes for sure, but he also has another sense that he uses, and that is his hearing. Owls have amazing senses of hearing, but I'll try to see. There's a little thing that's deceptive about his body. He kind of looks like he has ears coming out of his head. Those are just feathers. They don't actually have anything to do with his ears. They help him hide a bit better. But if you look beyond that ear tuft, there's this line coming down his face. He's showing it off right now. That line is actually helping him. It's a line of hard feathers, and that hard feather is kind of shaped, or those feathers are shaped in a way that makes it as kind of a satellite dish. Sound hits anywhere in his face, and it gets guided right into his ear hole. So this bird can be found in his native habitat of the East Coast pretty much every season. All seasons you'll see these guys because he can find his food even underneath the snow. He can listen for his food underneath the snow and then punch into the snow and get that food. And so that's why you can see him year-round, because they're not bothered by the snow. And also he's very, very fluffy, which keeps him nice and warm in the wintertime as well. And so the two raptors that we met today, they are both cavity nesters. So that means they love dead trees or boxes that people put up to nest in. And sometimes dead trees, humans don't really like them because they're either, not really pretty, or they might be a little bit too close to home, so they might be dangerous. And so a lot of times dead trees get cut down. And so if you have a dead tree in your neighborhood and you're thinking, you're seeing adults or anybody thinking about cutting it down, think about keeping it there. If it's just for the look of it, keep it there. It's providing homes for many, many different animals. And if you do have to cut down a tree, you can build a nest box. So a small kind of, it's bigger than a bird box you might think of for a robin or anything like that. But you can build a really big box for these kind of owls to hang out in. And so even though they've lost that tree, you can still have nesting owls in your area because of that. And so that's like my number one suggestion to help out even the American kestrel and the eastern screech owls by putting up boxes where you think they might need them. And the other one is, as we're hanging out together today, if you learn something cool as you meet these birds or you get your question answered, think about sharing what you learned with somebody who wasn't here. Because like I said, VIN's mission is to motivate people to care about their environment. But I believe that until you know, you don't really care. And so hopefully you all know a little bit more by the end of this, so you can share that with somebody who wasn't here so they can know a little bit more. And together we can protect a little bit more. And that's just going to be good for absolutely everyone. And so I'm happy that you guys got to meet our two birds. I'm going to allow Miami to go back in his crate, and I'm excited to hear some questions.
Fantastic. Well, while you're putting Miami back, for any friends on YouTube, if you guys want to share questions in the chat, we'll take as many as we can over the next 20 minutes or so. Live classes, I'm going to come to you guys one by one. So looks like everyone's connection's working great. Mr. Bitts' class, if you guys want to go first, I know you've got to go in a few minutes for another thing. So if you want to unmute your mic, turn on your camera, I'll come to you as soon as humanly possible. We do have a group that's right at the camera with their mic unmuted. So Mr. McGill's class, I'm going to head to you guys first. If you have a question for us, come on in and take us away. Hey, guys.
Mr. McGill.
Yes, Mr. McGill, you guys are up first if you want.
1 second.
Take your time.
Charlotte's got a question. Do you have a fun fact that you'd like to tell them? Come on.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hi. What is your favorite name for one of your birds?
Ooh, best name.
Species name or like personal name?
Personal name.
Yeah. Personal name. That's a good one. It's funny because our naming convention here at VINS is that they're based on where they come from. We're not that creative. And so it's a way for us also to make sure that they're treated as wild animals. They're not pets. And so I do love talking about the different places that our birds come from. So the eastern screech owl that you met today is from Miami, Florida. And so his personal name is Miami. And so sometimes a lot of people go all like, oh, that's an interesting name. And also they're surprised that he comes from all the way from Florida. And so I think that's one of my favorite names for sure.
Yeah. Do you get birds from all over the United States? Like, I mean, that seems like a very long way that there wouldn't be a similar place in Florida or close by. Are you like the creme de la creme of this in the United States?
Miami originally went to a rehab facility in Miami, Florida. And then when they deemed him unreleasable, he does have a permanent eye injury. They were looking for a place for him to live. So there's actually kind of like a job board where different nature center, different rehabbers kind of post these birds on to other nature centers. And they're like, here's an eastern screech owl. He has this type of injury. He's looking for a home. And so 6 years ago, he kind of appeared on that job board. And we were like, we would really love to have an eastern screech owl part of our team. So we reached out and he's with us. So we have also a peregrine falcon that is from Hawaii. We also have, we had a ferruginous hawk that came from Wyoming. So they kind of come from all over the place.
Very, very cool. Thanks, Caitlin. Miss St. John, if you guys want to turn on your mic, everyone can turn on their mics. There's no need to have it off in the background. I promise we can't hear you till I bring you in. But I'm going to go to Mr. Bitts' class. If you guys want to come on in, you should be audible. You're good to go. Hey.
Is the great horned owl related to the screech owl?
Ooh, that's a really great question. So great horned owls and screech owls are pretty closely related. I think they're in the same genus, which is that they're quite related. They're both in the greater group of owls that hoot. And so that includes barred owls, great horned owls, snowy owls, all those groups. They're kind of in this really big group. And then there's the screeching owls that are the barn owls. So those are like kind of the bigger groups. But the eastern screech owl and the great horned owl are pretty closely related, but not too close. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great question, guys. All right, Ms. Racco's class, if you guys want to come on in, grade 8, you're good to go. Hey.
Have you ever been injured by caring for an animal?
Good question. I love this.
Ooh, can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Yeah. Have you ever been injured by an animal, Caitlin? Have you held a bird or anything else?
Yeah. A lot of nicks and scratches on my hands. So a lot of the times what happens is they get on glove and they're on glove and I'm either feeding by hand or I'm getting their equipment on. And sometimes they get pretty eager and they'll sometimes kind of swipe down. And depending on if they swipe in the right way, I get a lot of nicks and little nicks on my hands. But luckily, nothing that's needed to go to the hospital or any stitches.
We get this question quite regularly when we have animal hospitals and people that are caring for them. My favorite phrase in the last few months of this, we did one with a penguin hospital, a very similar idea. And they said that every new intern ends up with flipper slaps all over their body. You cannot handle the penguins and the flipper slaps. They'd be very, very happy. Madam Pop, I'm going to head to your virtual school. If you guys want to unmute your mic, I promise I'm coming to everyone, and I'm coming to everyone again. We've got tons of time in this Q&A, which is amazing. So stay tuned. Don't worry, I will be back. Miss Pop, come on in. Hey, guys.
Hi, thank you for having us. So Marilyn would like to know, what do the owls use to make their nests?
Ooh.
That's a really great question. Most owls use a cavity. And so that means they find a hole in a tree or a pole or anything wooden. Also, there's other owls that find little cavities in attics or in barns, so a little bit bigger spaces, but generally they like cavities. But what's really funny is they don't really do anything within the cavity generally. They just oh, here we are. We have this hole in a tree. Great. But the one thing they do use, we talked about during program, is that pellet. That pellet that's full of fur and bones, they will sometimes break it apart and use that to line their nest. And that's pretty much all they use. Mm-hmm.
Very, very cool. Thanks, Ms. Pop. We're going to go to Miss St. John's class in Kitchener. They had to brave a snowstorm today. Half the kids couldn't make it, but these are the hardy ones that actually got here today. So come on in and take us away. Hey.
I have one question. What is the most dangerous kind of raptor in the raptor birds?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one. So off the top of my head, thinking about the dangerous ones, I would think for humans, in my neck of the woods, goshawks are some of the most territorial. And so goshawks have a tendency that when they nest, anybody that comes by, they will dive at them, and they can cause some injuries to folks who get a little bit too close. But generally, most raptors, they're really just wanting us to leave them alone. And so there's not really any danger for humans from any of these big guys. Because they just kind of want to steer clear of us. We're a much bigger predator than they are. But there's a couple of them, like the goshawk, that will be a little bit more, making sure that no predators get too close for their nest. Goshawks are the ones that I hear, anybody who knows a nest nearby, they're like, don't go there. But you'll get kind of barred owls will do the same. If you go too close to their nest, they'll kind of swoop down at you, but they generally don't make contact. I've heard stories of different scientists that go to different nests and they get just a little, they're doing science. They're getting in the nest and they'll wear big helmets. But generally for everyday people, they're not that. They're not really dangerous to us.
We've got a lot of people in the Vermont, Ontario area today. And so anyone who's familiar with red-winged blackbirds, they're not a raptor, but there's a bird that will attack your head at any chance it gets really over the whole season.
And red-winged blackbirds will also mob bigger raptors too.
Yes, they will. Well, this is something I want to note actually for all our students. Pretty much like you can't miss this if you're looking for it. Any spring, any summer, look up and you'll often see a big bird with a bunch of little birds attacking it in the air. And that's just nest protection. You'll have a raptor that flies by and the birds that are with their nest are not too fond of a big predator nearby their babies, and they will attack it, which is very cool to see. It's something that almost anyone can witness in the natural world. So I hope you guys get that chance. We're going to head back for another round of questions. We're ripping through these. Mr. McGill's class, you guys are first, and we'll head to Mr. Bitts, Ms. Rocco, and Ms. Pov after that. Come on back in Thunder Bay. Hey, guys.
Here, Bill, can I do one?
Hey.
I was wondering
Go closer.
what's the average weight of a falcon?
Average weight of a falcon, Caitlin. No pressure.
Yeah. So again, it depends on the species. So an American Kestrel, who's a falcon, the average weight is about 100 grams. So a stick of butter. But the peregrine falcon, who is pretty much the biggest falcon in the Northeast that I know of, is about 800 grams. So 8 times the size of a kestrel. So it depends on the species. And I'm trying to think of other falcons. Like I think falcons are bigger. I just don't know how much they weigh.
That's
but
okay.
falcons are bigger.
It's a good story. By the way, it's the second time in 3 days that someone said a stick of butter as an analogy. So it turns out kestrels and baby polar bears are both a stick of butter. Who knew? Mr. Blitz's class, if you guys want to come on back in, I know you're leaving in a couple minutes, but you're good to go. Hey, guys.
Go for it, Lucas.
Which raptor has the most savage hunting techniques?
Savage hunting techniques. I like this.
Ooh, that's a great question. I think the most I have one obvious answer, and I'm thinking I'm gonna mull it a little bit over and see if I have a better one. But red-shouldered hawks are known for peeling toads. They're one of the few animals that can eat toads, and that's because there's poison in the skin. And so not many animals want to eat toads, but the red-shouldered hawk has figured it out that the meat below the skin is edible. And so they will peel the toad. So that's pretty gnarly.
That's pretty gnarly. that we never had anyone mention this in the broadcast before. I'll also note, not a bird of prey, but if you look up shrikes and what they do to things that they capture, it's pretty gruesome. You look up shrike like bush or shrike tree, and you'll see what I mean by that. Cool question, guys. We're gonna head to Miss Racco's class. Come on back in grade 8s and take us away. Hey, guys. Unmute though. Yes, unmute. Otherwise,
What's the biggest bird that you guys handle?
Ooh.
Yeah, so the biggest bird that we handle is the golden eagle. And the golden eagle is about the size of my torso and weighs about 15 pounds. And so they have a very superior grip strength. Their feet are about the size of my hand. We do, I don't handle them on glove, but we do have them on exhibit. And every 6 months, we have to catch them to give them health checks. And the catching of that is always pretty dramatic. And our people have to be really mindful about those talons because
they're the biggest.
The helix, which is the thumb, the talon is about 4 inches long.
Yeah, so a couple things on this just to flesh this out a little too. I do believe the biggest eagle in Canada, they're bigger than bald eagles, yes?
Yep.
And United States too, so they're a huge bird. It's the most beautiful bird I've ever seen live in the wild. And again, it doesn't seem like it because you got to tell them it's this big, but if they wanted to, they could easily break your arm. Like they're way more powerful than our bones can withstand. And for an animal that's like, it's big, but it doesn't seem like it should be able to do that, they're a really exceptional animal. So yeah. I'm really glad we got that.
And
question.
also they only weigh 15 pounds.
Yeah.
But that strength is really impressive.
We are the weaklings of the whole animal kingdom. Basically, everything can beat up people. Like we are, yeah.
So luckily, they don't want to most of the time.
I'm going to take a quick question from YouTube and then wrap up with Miss Poff. This has been such a fun broadcast, everyone. We've got our friends in Vancouver joining us today. They want to know: do you feed them live animals like mice, or is it always dead things?
Yeah, so generally we only give them dead things. So in the wild, these birds, when they see a fresh dead thing, they're like, yes, that's easy. I'm not going to have to hunt it. And they're pretty happy to gobble it up. So we generally take advantage of that natural history of them because first off, they're injured in some way. That's the reason they're with us. So because they're injured, they're not really good at hunting often. And so they might not be really effective at hunting. They might also be more likely to get injured because these prey items, they want to defend themselves and they do still have claws. They still have teeth. And so they can actually injure our birds back. Most often, the raptor will be successful, but they can get nicks and scratches and injuries all over their legs and their faces. And so it's pretty risky for them. So we generally don't give them a live food. The exception is in our hospital, if we want to make sure that this bird can hunt and that they can survive in the wild, we would test them out with a live prey. So that is really the only time we use live prey.
Yeah, great question. I don't think we've ever got that one of our VINS programs before. Madam Poff, if you want to wrap us up with one final question, and then Caitlin, I'll turn to you to one final question, as we'll put it, after we're done that. But come on back in, virtual class.
Hi. Thanks for having us again. It's been super interesting. I have another question from one of my grade 1 students, and they're asking, will goshawks hurt you badly?
Again, it's the risk. So the risk is that they will kind of hit your head a lot of the times, and they can latch and they can slice. But like they won't necessarily most of them they'll kind of just bounce off. But if they get a little bit too close to your eyes, for sure the risk is they can cause some severe damage. But most often than not, it's just kind of a nick or a scratch on the head. And, anybody gets cut on the face or cut on the head, you just know that it bleeds a lot. And so you don't really want that to happen.
Fingers crossed, no bleeding on the head. We don't want that in any broadcast or for you in general, the rest of your career. Flipper slaps, however, I don't know. I'm one for flipper slaps. If that happened to me, I'd be okay. Caitlin, this has been so much fun. As I've noted, if people want to check out more about the work that you do, check out vinsweb.org. We've got our people on YouTube mentioning that it's a beautiful site. It is. There's so much to explore there on your social media platforms and more. But is there any final message you want to leave us with about Raptors, about the work you do at VINS before we wrap up and bring everyone in for a big thank you and farewell?
Yeah, I'd love to end it on the fact that raptors are really important for their ecosystem. They are apex predators. They eat things, and without them eating things, those prey items, they will do what they do best, which is to make more of themselves. And so we will quickly not have a suitable habitat. They're going to eat everything or propagate diseases. So really having raptors in our area and loving them and making sure that they have a healthy habitat means a healthy habitat for everything. So thank you so much for inviting me and having fun with our birds.
Thank you so much for a fantastic presentation, getting to hang out with your birds and learn so much in the Q&A. As we do to end every broadcast, I'm going to bring in our teachers to say a big thank you and farewell. So Madam Poff, Mr. McGill, Ms. Racco's class, if you guys want to unmute your mics, you're all in the broadcast. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.